Like to call to order the December meeting of the Kingston Public Library Trustees at 6:02. In attendance, we're going to move around the table and give our names. Emily Curtin, Carolyn Brunage,
Matt Donahue,
Jane Quackenbush, Lee Lewis.
Nick Catoulis,
Donald Cologne, Library Director.
and we have with us this evening to open the meeting, the Kingston 300 committee. Some members, if you would like to introduce yourselves before we
Sure.
start.
Yeah, Ken Brack, I'm one of the directors.
David Lowney, one of the directors.
I'm Jim Farrell, I'm a project editor. Good new photographer.
I don't know, photo editor.
Thank you so much for coming. We have it here on our agenda that you will be opening the meeting, so you can begin whenever you're
Great.
ready.
Do you mind if we kind of, not display, but
Pass them around.
pass some of the photos around for the then and now exhibit? And I also have a few handouts. One for those of you who have not seen our prototype of the forthcoming book, which is going to be published next September. And also, I don't know if you've all seen or received a copy of the, our proposal for then and now exhibit and for the speaker series.
I did send out the copy of what you had
Okay, thank
forwarded
you. If
on.
anybody would like a hard copy.
These photographs?
Yeah.
I can't tell if they're painting or.
Just print it on canvas, I guess. Yes. Have some other bigger pieces that we like to cabinet.
If you'd like, maybe we'll start introduce it and then want to yield the floor very quickly to our project.
When I got involved with it, I was trying to figure out what I could contribute to it. So my thought was we have incredibly talented people in town that do really cool things. So my approach, I'm a commercial photographer, I do food photography, but there's no food here. So. I like to photograph artists in their studios because I think where they do what they do is important. So we started working on that, how to do that. So this is the generations of the farm stand. Yeah, got that. And then obviously Peter, he used to make the furniture at the plantation. Now he lives on Landing Road, and that's his studio, and that's his workshop, which I think is just really cool. And then we wanted to acknowledge the people, and we're working on this too, the people in town. So we got a shot of the fire department, as many as we could. A couple of them were out on. And we're working on doing the police and some others too. And then we wanted to talk about the water. And this is a Ken can tell you better what this boat is about. It was a restored 100-year-old boat.
Built the original, I think it was Jan, correct, 1898 perhaps. Yeah.
So we went from shipbuilding into smaller boats.
Yeah. And we also have shots of oyster farming. And then the smaller ones, I don't know exactly who's, was this Severs?
Severs.
The woman that fought in the Civil War. And so we got that. This is a close-up of a beautiful drawing that we're working on. It's about this big, it's all done in pencil. And this is just a small part of it. And it shows Main Street.
Main Street, right.
And this
Nick
is,
found these in the archive.
Yeah.
And then when we
Yep.
took a picture and put it on the computer, and then we could kind of zoom in. And you'd be amazed at the things that by zooming in, you can see the detail that some artists, we unfortunately, his name is there, but we can't read it. But this is only a very small portion of it.
This is
on two sides of the street.
exactly, this is a really small, but there's little stories of all these people doing things. You have to really look at it. And then this was again, a belt buckle. Yeah. And then wanted to show the oyster farm too. So the bottom line of what we're doing is that we'd like to exhibit these along with the book. And the proposal I had to do this, we can do these fairly economically, doing them on canvas, as opposed to having them framed in glass, which I'd love to do, but that gets very, very expensive when you start matting things. So we put this together with an idea of taking highlights from the book and some outtakes for an exhibit. And that's how they would be probably presented.
And just to pan back a little bit, so two things tonight, you're seeing, two proposals, the then and now photo exhibit, and also a speaker series, less time on. So excited about both. Meeting with Donald and Nick last week, Donald suggested for the photo exhibit, potentially 3 segments, month-long in the back art gallery section, terrific. We can help draw people in, of course, and to pick topics or themes, if you will, for each of the 3, rather than trying to have, at first we were kind of like, is it one event? Is it at the Adams Center? Where's the venue? How does that work? Multiple days, but to have 3. And so one topic, which, these great photos of the recent Veterans Day dedication speak to, would be likely on the tradition of service and sacrifice in Kingston, and the way Kingstonians remember or commemorate those who have, fought in wars, and our Memorial Day, parades, everything around that. Kind of a big bucket there. That goes alongside this, a major portion of the book is called Generations of Service, where we feature some select tributes to veterans, somewhat far past and more recent, let's say. Lots of photography from varied eras. So then and now, we, Ed and I and others sort of thought, let's first start with the incredible archival material that Nick and Jan know and deal with all the time, that's across the street from our 1900s photographers, primarily. Draw from that, and Nick will help select them, I'm sure, and we'd love to work with him on that, and then match those, thematically with contemporary ones, so that Generations of Service is just one of those big topics, and there's others that were suggested, but to give you an idea, so that could be potentially a month-long, and bring people in, and we feel it's just a way to engage Kingstonians, easy, accessible for the 300th, help celebrate the birthday. And it doesn't have to be a lot of text, for those photos. Text will come with the book and other sources, but captions, but just visual learners, families with their kids can come in. So I'll stop there, but Ed may have more, or anyone of us. But
This thing could probably never end, the way you look at it. We're always finding different things. I was at Pilgrim Hall photographing another sword, and we're gonna be shooting some stuff on Friday here. There's a boat that we're doing, and we have some other characters that we'd like to. There's a gentleman, Roger, I can't think of his last name, like Duck, who I photographed a couple months ago, and I'm working to get a shot of Chris and Marianne Cooper. Not everyone needs to be a celebrity or needs to be a success. We were looking to balance it out with other people that are doing really great work behind the scenes. So the photos will be a combination of that. I'm taking them, they have to edit them, So, but we want to make sure we cover this broad contemporary, historical, fun stuff, creative stuff. So that's where I'm trying to work on that. So it could be an ongoing project for a long time.
Yeah, we're really excited about the breadth and scope of the book. I mean, the last comprehensive book that was done for the town was in 50 years ago, Doris Johnson's 250th. So we think this will be a real keepsake. We have brought in a professional designer. It's going to be a really, we think a really classy looking book, be 250 pages, all in color, and just a mix of fun stories and history. So we're really excited about just trying to get it out there. And an exhibit like this, I think, would really help to raise some community awareness for it.
And hopefully the prototype gives you a little feel. That's not literally perhaps the cover, but some of the design elements are there, and you can see some of the features and just a little sample. One other thought, some of the photos, you know, the town's maritime tradition and other crafts people, just an industrial, you know, the mills of the past, that may form an umbrella, you know, working traditions for another topic, but you can see there's already a lot of contemporary photos of that, and agriculture that's ongoing, or aquaculture, obviously cranberry growers, etc. So hopefully that visual look at it helps.
I love the idea of using the gallery space in the back. I think I envisioned also using the Adams Center, which I love the Adams Center, but the patron foot traffic in the library and the different people that will be exposed to what you have to offer if it's displayed in the gallery, that's great.
We were applauding that.
We were talking the other day about, you know, we could do a wonderful show at the Adams,
Yeah.
but it's not open all the time.
Right.
And what's the point of doing this? You know, like, people could maybe come to the opening, but if it's here for a month,
Mhm.
and how it's divided up, it's up to you folks, but we're good. We're trying to get the fire department, the police department, we're looking to get some of the people that ran the older restaurants and get them at the early bird around the counter having coffee. You know, people that ran restaurants that maybe some of you remember, some of you don't. So we're trying to tie that in visually with the photographs, because it's just, it works, and it's just, we're gonna do the luminaries on Saturday, and like I say, this could go on, but it's fun, it's all good.
Timing, Donald, you had mentioned windows in 25.
Mhm.
We had been thinking, you know, 26 the year, but it could start in 25. So I mean, it's however it works, of course, on your end.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I thought that when we had our discussion that we were looking at 25 going into 26. So we could definitely do something in 25. You know, so if it's a matter of just doing like a singular one, you know, in 25 to kind of perhaps work out any kinks that may, you know, come up in that process, so that during 26, you know, there can be more of a focus on the, you know, couple or how many we do. So when we met last week, there was a lot of ideas, and we would basically need the MFA in order to do this exhibit the way with the great ideas they had. So I had suggested that maybe do multiple exhibits with the specific topic for each one. So I had checked, you know, with Gail, who does the, you know, the art gallery exhibit, you know, reservations and things like that. So there were multiple months for next year that were available. So I had sent them to Ken, and, you know, he wrote back about, you know, something in 26 as well. So we could definitely, you know, do that. We could play both, you know, because it is, you know, a great project, you know, and it is, you know, something that I think that would be beneficial to, you know, both sides. So, yeah.
It's a wonderful way to learn history. And in the school system, they don't have time now to teach local history and so forth, so that this is a great way to learn. It doesn't make any difference what age you are. The other thing is, this is really going to help the archives, because it's going to be a then and now. And look what we have hiding across the street. And I mean, poor Nick is going to be deluged. It will help the archives. It will help Nick's exhibits and so forth that he has there, because this is an enticement. It's really, I'm excited about it. Those 10,000 pictures that we have over there.
Yeah.
We won't use all of them yet.
I will say, if I might speak up just for a second, the part you mentioned about local history, I thought was really interesting. I was just talking with a friend of mine who also lives in town on I think Thursday or Friday. And we were talking about town history, things like that. She's very engaged in that kind of stuff in Kingston. And I even mentioned at the time, you know, well, as nice as the schools were, I didn't learn that much about it in school because we live in Massachusetts. Most of that stuff gets subsumed by Boston history, and to a slightly lesser extent Plymouth history. And so to see something that's more Kingston focused, I think like you mentioned, is a really interesting touch. It's something that you don't always see even living here, but I think it's kind of neat.
There's a picture going around of the recent veterans, exhibit that we had. There is a picture of World War II veterans standing on the bleachers down at the playground. And if you just pair those two pictures to see, true, we did have pictures for the Revolution and the Civil War, but this town has sent a more than proportion of people to serve our country. And it's just a great way of putting the two things together.
It does make me wonder if, as the themes get set and the pictures are selected, if somebody would be able, either from the schools or who has sort of that age group, you know, that I feel like it's like that elementary, intermediate age group, to be able to either make some kind of a little like scavenger hunty, like if you find these 3 things, you're entered in a raffle, or your teacher gives you extra points or something. Because, I mean, I know my kids would love it, but I think it is that little niche of history that could make the sort of big history very, very personal.
I mean, like I remember being at KIS and finding Kingstonopoly in the games cabinet during indoor recess, and that was about it for local history when I was growing up.
And I will say, when
Well,
I
they have
was
the
in school,
mural
we
up
did
in the
local
library.
history.
Do that?
But I
In the
was here.
Kingston Immediate Library.
That's a terrific.
Oh, you're right, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Reach out to the
Some of
curriculum
the
directors.
social studies
um,
folks, I bet
yeah.
at KE and KIS would be more than
We went
happy.
to the high, we went up to Silver Lake and thinking that we could get some contributions through some of their writing courses and so on. But they were all enthusiastic, but they had no time. So,
Yeah.
And Carrie Elliott Matthias is the librarian at and she was an archivist here. So she knows the continuity and the connection, so. that would
I
be
wonder
good.
too, if like the 8th grade civics class would be like a point of contact too.
Are there any questions about maybe the book project as a whole, or more on the photo expo idea that we could help with? We're glad to at any time. Well, I'll briefly speak to the speaker series, the second part that's on the back side. Again, some printouts here if you want. I think we had, for now, I feel like it's really fluid, and we're really looking forward to more ideas. We keep hearing them from the ground up. That's been our whole method, if you will, while we've been, researching the book and compiling it. Maybe 6 topics there. It's hopefully clear on the photo expo, we are not seeking any funding from the library. The speaker series probably could use some help if there's anything available in the budget for speaker stipends. They can be pretty modest. I just through some initial explorations for 200 to 250, but not everyone's going to even ask for anything. I put in there just a rough budget. I think it's $1,200. And that, again, that the list of and ideas will grow, I think, organically. And we just wanted to kind of hopefully get into your wheelhouse as you're, eventually as you're thinking about 26 and your speaker series, et cetera. Those are just some, and I think Donald had, rightly questioned, are you striving for a general audience, lay people, or more specific and technical? So initially we had a couple topics that were a little more of the latter. Definitely a general audience, and maybe there's eventually there's a few tailored, presentations that arise from that. But starting out, the top one I put on there, this was Historical Commission, had suggested that, not many people know this, but Kingston is part of the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail. And Jan could speak to this a lot more, but there are some components of the town's past that relate to early immigrants and the early areas of this town where Irish lived and what they did for work, et cetera. That's just one, and we are part of that trail. It's a formal network, if you will. This Historical Commission was involved with it. It's not, not to overblow it, it's not a huge thing, but there's a lot of points of interest in there. That could be one where you're probably gonna have a lot of people who'd be interested in that. But just for one example.
I will say, I appreciated the specificity in the third example, the Allerton property.
Oh, okay.
Because it's good to know you have tapped, or there's somebody who can speak to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like that was fleshed out so that I could see it from start to finish.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one looks very interesting to me.
and Professor Zimmerman's gonna contribute something on that to the book as well, but shorter or whatever. Yeah. that-
Did you do anything with the houses, like, then and now? Because I live in a. I'd be more than happy to.
What's your address?
19 Summer Street.
19. Okay.
Oh, okay. Where's that?
We are, I mean, there's so many
Walk.
houses. Jan can speak a lot better about selectively, but the then and nows, that's a theme throughout the book. We're having a lot of fun, little sidebars, sometimes just short text, visual, just to engage, so it doesn't have to be super long, but I mean, some of them merit more.
We have some contributors that have given us great stories of their houses.
And some of them going back to the 1600s, in fact, but it's an interesting.
I just think people love
They do.
houses and real estate, they do.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
We'll make a note. Well, thanks so much, and
You guys.
Thank you. This is
Yeah.
fantastic. All the work that you've been doing and everything you put together.
we
It's very
appreciate the
exciting.
partnership and great ideas coming forward already.
It's an interesting way to present things. I know your dad is a framer, and they're light, so they're easy to hang.
Right, and they're so easy to transport places. too.
Yeah, I would think without glass, they're like that much less fragile.
Exactly, and I'm not saying it's a lot, it's more inexpensive to do, but the thing, I've been a photographer for a long time, and this process started and the canvas started to bleed through and it made it look like a mushy photograph. And I go, well, there's painting and there's photography. But now that I find, and I don't know how they do it, it's more of it goes over it, so you're not getting the canvas seeping through. And so you keep the sharpness of it.
Yeah.
It's almost more like screen printing, sort of.
Yeah, I guess, I hate to say it, they're done in India. I'd look to get someone to do it here, and it's just really, really expensive, but they hold up really well, and like I say, they're easy to hang, so. Yep. I'm having a blast.
They're wonderful. Thank you.
He is having a blast. We're having a blast going out with him on some of these
Well, I've
shows.
lived in Kingston for 50 years, and I'm learning stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's, and that's what I think is infectious about this, is I didn't know that, that kind of thing, so, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much, appreciate it.
I'll leave a couple of these here. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming.
Friday morning, 10 o'clock. Yes. 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Good night. So the next item on our agenda is actually minutes approval, but we're going to do the minutes from November and this meeting at January's meeting. So moving beyond that, the next item is subcommittee update. Do you want, I wasn't at the meeting, the last meeting, do you want to?
Sure, I'll take the lead of this. So at the last subcommittee meeting, there was, we did meet with the designers for the furniture, and selections had been made for the pieces of furniture. It went quite well. I think that the group, was fairly worked really well, in making decisions about the fabrics and the colors and so forth, with the lobby design in mind, and the functionality of the library. Obviously, we need fabrics and materials that are going to be easy to clean, and that are going to be durable for years to come and so forth. So the selections were made for that. The foundation is looking to write a grant to fund that project. So there will be no further movement until that process is completed and a decision is made, which I believe is going to be in February. So that's, I believe, kind of where we left off with that.
And they did send around just a sneak peek of what they chose for. So I give them credit for moving things along that quickly, because the whole thing from start to finish was just nuts.
No, it went by quickly, yes.
Yes, compared to what you have to deal with when you're making decisions about structural decisions like the bathroom.
A little slower.
Yeah.
This was our respite.
But this will, I think the end result's gonna be amazing looking. Okay, with that said, the next item is luminaries, which is rapidly approaching.
Yeah, so luminaries is this Saturday evening. If anyone is available to assist us in passing out food, that would be wonderful. We, as indicated in my monthly report, we had done a partnership with the Parks and Recreation Department in order to create a cohesive poster and flyer. What we created, with the poster, it has all the organizations that are participating, listed with a QR code that will bring folks to the town's website, which gives a history of luminaries, which I thought was kind of cool, as well as the handout flyer, which has a map that indicates the street closures and lists all the different organizations that are participating, the times that they're participating, and the details of what is happening at those events. We will be having, I just found out today that Mrs. Claus will be joining Santa Claus, so we will have an added celebrity in the building.
So we have a huge draw.
Yes.
Arrange security.
Yes. So we'll be doing that. There will be crafts in the children's room. We will be providing food and drink, as well as various displays, inflatables, photo ops, and things like that. I did do basically a tour of the churches in town, delivering the posters and the flyers, which the groups were all very thankful that, we were able to do this. I know that it was noted at one of the selectmen meetings that it was brought up that, we had done this, and they were thankful about that, because it's been something that folks have been trying to get for quite a while. There were a couple of bumps with things in it. What we've learned is that definitely, like, next year we will have hard deadlines for organizations, because unfortunately at times of being asked information, we're given information, but then things kind of grew, details about how many offerings of something, changed. Perhaps the timing changed, reduced due to, not enough volunteers for that full time period that they originally gave, and stuff like that. So definitely we would do that. that way, set a timeline. It was actually the town clerk's office that set up the webpage with the info, with the QR code. So we're thankful for that. The printing of the posters, because basically I made enough had posters done at reprint today for the participating groups. And, limited number of flyers, because the goal being people will want to be using their phones to, use the QR code to see what's going on. It was not a heavy cost to us at all, so it didn't need to be, this big expensive, hurdle or anything. So we're just prepping for that. If you went into my office right now, you'll see all sorts of, holiday fun going on.
I see that the high is 33 for Saturday, so it's gonna be chilly.
Nice snow.
It's gonna be chilly.
Yeah, well, we'll have snow anyways. It will snow
We
here.
make our own snow.
Yes, we make our own snow here. And stuff. So, yeah, so it will be a good event. So obviously with the cold, and I think years past since I've been here, it can be an indicator for, high volume of, attendees, wanting to stay in to, warm up, or otherwise, folks will venture out as long as it's a clear cold versus being rainy and wet and, yucky out. So we will see what happens.
The time frame for people who wish to volunteer.
So they are actually closing the roads at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So we're open from 5:30 to 8. For then. And, we just have ongoing events. Other organizations are doing timed events. But we have just kind of ongoing, crafts and music and food and so forth.
Great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the 2025 meeting calendar. We were going to try to knock it out in one block. Given that we're supposed to have a certain number scheduled in advance, I think we were just thinking of looking at the entire year and trying to put some dates down.
Correct. So I don't know if you want me to run down the dates individually, or what I looked at was the third Monday of the month, with the exception of the months that have Monday holidays as, have Mondays as those holidays. We would then move it to the fourth Monday of the month.
So right off the bat, January is the 4th, right? Because it's
Correct.
January 27th.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. So I have, and correct me if I'm wrong, January 27th, February 23rd.
And the 24th.
Is it 12th?
Monday.
Okay. And that is why you corrected. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So then there will be March 24th as well. April 28th.
I'm not fast enough on my phone.
Okay.
Hang on one second. I don't text as quickly as my children. But I'll write it down and then put that paper somewhere and be like, oh, I wish I put it in my phone.
Okay, so March 24th.
March 24th,
Yeah,
April 28th, May 19th, June 16th, July 21st, August 18th, September 15th,
What was the August date? I'm sorry.
the 18th, then September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, And then December 15th, if the board chooses to have a December meeting.
Which is something I'm open to discuss, because every year since I've been a trustee, when December rolls around, I think, why do we have a trustee meeting in December? Because there's so much going on. Now I realize operations of the library don't slow down in December, so this would have to be a decision we make in conjunction with the director. If you think we can perhaps forego a holiday season trustee meeting next year, I'm open to that motion.
I think the timing is fine, because I think anything budgetary, we have the introduction in November. Any true discussions about the budget will come after the beginning of the year. Once the departments meet with the finance committee and any discussions with Board of Selectmen or whoever, so I think that to offset it, the 1 month would be fine.
Well, then I would take a motion that we eliminate a December meeting, or do we even need to if we're discussing this as a group? And setting the calendar.
I don't necessarily think that you need a
Okay.
motion.
Then I guess I will open the floor. Is there anyone who desperately wishes to meet next December during the busy holiday season to discuss library business?
I would say, at least my gut would tell me that unless there's pressing business to which we need to attend at that
Right.
point in time, yeah, like almost an emergency type meeting, unless something like that pops up.
So maybe we
Yeah.
just sort of
All right, so
hold
let's
the
get,
Wait and see.
15th, hold the 15th, but no, we probably won't have it.
yeah, we'll schedule through November and just be comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so if those dates work with everyone,
It should.
okay. I think this start time will remain 6. I personally like the earlier start time. I'm an early to bed, early to rise person, so the 6 o'clock meeting works for me if it's still okay with everyone. Okay. Great. So then I do think we have to make a motion to set the calendar, right? At least we have in the past to accept
Yes.
the dates. Yeah. So I'll take a motion to accept the calendar as laid out by Director Cologne.
Do we need to go date by date?
I think we can say as laid out by Director Cologne and then
You can
pull
say,
the
"Got the
dates.
calendar." I'll make a motion to set the schedule in accordance with Director Cologne's suggestion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Don't say anything. So that's perfect. Then we are going into the director's report.
Okay, well, I just had just a couple of things that I just want to highlight. One is that we have finalized the implementation of Alphabet, which is the new online calendar and museum pass registration system. Overall, it has been working well. There hasn't been too many issues reported to me, and I don't believe that patrons have seen much of an impact, from their end for signing up for either or activities. We did receive a donation from a former Kingston resident in the sum of $1,000. That donation was submitted to Town Hall, and it was submitted to the Board of Selectmen for their approval to accept the donation. As practice, any donations over a certain dollar amount has to be voted in by them. And so we will be looking at, a use for that funding. As I'm concerned, because it is basically funding that goes into like a general gift account. So once we start co-mingling money, it kind of gets, confusing at times. And so for any kind of future, use of the funds, I just assume we spend it once we get it, sort of thing. There was a question asked by the MBLC concerning our financial report. There evidently was a file that I sent them that they couldn't open, and they just just sent me an email saying, hey, we couldn't open this file. So we were not part of the first and second round of state aid recipients, but we will be in January. It was and I'm not exactly sure why, I emailed the documents months ago, and I would have thought that at that time, people would have tried to open files to make sure that they worked.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. But we are fine. So they, just needed basically an updated financial report from the town showing how town meeting voted for our budget, which was easy enough to get from the, accounting software. And, I mentioned that I'm sitting on the hiring committee for the COA director. We kind of had our first meeting the other day. So this is an interesting experience for me because I'm learning, I have my own hiring styles, and this is kind of enlightening to see how.
May I ask who is on the committee?
So HR is part of the committee, but they don't make any hiring decisions. They are just there to facilitate the group. So it is made up of myself, the director of Parks and Recreation, the health agent, a select person, and I'm going around the table that we had, and a member of the Council on Aging director, as well as a member of the Selectman's Office. And so, we reviewed, we'll be interviewing soon, and, we'll move forward with that process. I was asked to serve on the town's website redesign committee. I think more so because an email went out asking for people's comments, and I gave feedback, and I think that's what
And
wrangled
looped
me.
yourself in.
Exactly, but that will be beginning in January. We are working with the same vendor, which is Civic Plus. So basically it's just a change in theme, ideas for content, and and so I'm looking at it as more of because they can get counts for page access and stuff like that. To look at it is like, okay, what are folks really going to the town's website for, and kind of making those the highlighted, kind of things. And then lastly, well, actually two more things. I know I only said a couple of things, but the LED sign update, a fix was presented. We were given two options. One was for the LED sign company to come out twice a year to provide maintenance at a cost. Or the other was the option that's listed in my report, where that they actually come in and encase the panels, basically, waterproofing them, sort of, kind of thing. Which, why that's not the standard, I'm not exactly sure why. So they came in. I did reach out to the foundation, making that as an ask of them. The LED sign was a purchase that the foundation had done, I think, like 6 years ago. And unfortunately, we've had issues all along with it. And so they have agreed to it. So we're just now, working out the accounting side of things and scheduling the repairs.
I was happy to see that last week's rain didn't affect it though.
I know.
That was,
I know. And then the last thing on my, report is about the other day that we lost power for a bit during the day, and it affected basically Summer Street 3A going into Plymouth. And it was approximately an hour and a half or so that it was out. I conferred with the town, and there is not any type of existing, power outage policy. And some libraries I've worked at had specific, verbiage for a policy, rather than just a judgment call. I do think that, and I'm just bringing this up because I'm sure that there is going to be a call to try to formalize a policy from others, that we remain with the judgment call, because it basically was a situation where we were having discussions about it, and not even 10 minutes later, the power came back on. And that was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the hours were until 8 p.m. that evening. So it would be hard to, explain to citizens, okay, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. Sorry, the staff went home a half an hour ago, whatever, and the power came on just a little while
Well,
ago.
and the tricky thing about that situation is it was a sliver of town. It wasn't as if it was a widespread outage in town.
Exactly.
And so everyone was without power. So I think people are more understanding when it's across the board versus these smaller areas.
Yes. It did bring up another discussion because since I've been here, so the 3 years plus, there was one other power outage briefly that had occurred, and there was discussion about the building getting a generator, because basically the library, the Adams Center nor the Reed have generators. So has been discussion about that. So I will be talking to facilities about possibly, pursuing that, and perhaps if that is a capital asset, if we were to group it with, with the rec, that to collectively, whether there's group purchasing or whatever for the three, that there'd be some kind of, savings, even on installation costs, just as a future capital project. But did anybody have any other questions about my report?
Do you want to talk about statistics or no?
Yes, I always forget. It's right here.
I'm trying
Okay.
to slip it past.
I'm trying not to be the fine print. All right, so year to date, I will report that. So year to date, we are at a 12.23% increase over last year. So last year at this time, we had 9,498 circulation transactions. This year we had 10,000. Oh, actually, that was for November. That was just for the month. That wasn't for the year. I apologize. So for the month of November, we had the 12.23% increase. And looking at other, libraries within OCLN, the majority were negatives. So there is constant, improvement in that. There has been an ongoing, when we look at the statistics, there has been an increase in usage overall with Hoopla. So we are kind of monitoring that, with the, with the funding. So what I did do this time was because I did learn how on Hoopla to just do the fiscal year. So the numbers that you see here are, from the July to now, statistics for July through November. And so, during that time period, 2,189 items had been downloaded at a cost of $5,055.58. One benefit with the digital collection obviously is, shelving space, that these items are not taking up physical space. And with Hoopla, it is a service that multiple users can access them at any time, as well as there isn't an expiration of titles as would be with Overdrive collection.
I was a Libby enthusiast and only used Libby, and then I kind of drifted a little bit over to Hoopla. And now I find myself on Hoopla more and more. So I feel like I wish I would, just because of the availability and the length of time that you can borrow the material.
Yeah, and there isn't waiting lists. That's the thing. There isn't the list. So the two services complement each other. We will be looking at Overdrive as one negative that I will say. that I was contacted by the chair of the Overdrive Selection Committee for OCLN, in that this week at the Members Council at the Directors Meeting in Braintree, they'll be doing a presentation of Overdrive statistics and purchasing. And, it's a situation where there are a lot of libraries that invest very highly in Overdrive, and we historically have not been. So there'll be a presentation that will show that, that our patrons rely on a lot of other community items, from the shared collection. So, for some directors, that kind of irritates them when they spend tens of thousands of dollars, like literally some $50,000. Obviously, our budget, we can't do something like that. So that will be brought up. I have spoken to the librarians as part of their collection development, practices to look at and see, where our patron needs are. Because one of the challenges is that a lot of times when purchases are made, it's not necessarily done for the local community, but it is for the network. So they may, like, for example, if you looked at a waiting list on a title and you say, oh, look at this 80 people, but there's only 4 Kingston people. How many copies do you really buy? You don't buy 10 copies because it'll make the list go longer, sort of thing. But another statistic that I looked at was the fact that, for our November statistics, 34% of our circulation was non-resident based, which means that we provided physical print materials to residents of other communities. So my point from that meeting will be that, I don't think that it's why, data can be dangerous. I don't think it can be wise to take resources and start powering them out. So, like, for example, another library within our network in November provided more services to non-residents than their own residents. And I'm pretty sure that they will be in the same situation that we are. So I'm, going to bring up the point that we need to look at resource sharing as a whole, because some of the bigger ones that do the resource, Overdrive sharing, their non-resident percentage was only like under 10%. So I think as the discussion, unfolds, it will bring up a bigger discussion.
And I don't know how this impacts it, but the student patrons of the library all have the access to Sora,
Right.
which is through their accounts in the schools.
Yep.
Which are their audiobooks, ebooks that they can get that way.
Mhm.
So, and I know they can borrow, it's not just a school year.
Yeah.
It's something that they can use that their school address throughout the calendar year.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are looking into different options. One thing that we're looking at for this upcoming summer reading, because we're already looking at summer reading, is at one point the Council on Aging had donated some Kindles to us. And so we're looking at the possibility of downloading the summer reading list titles onto each of the devices so that, middle schooler or a teen could have, so they can have all the books, preloaded, as an option. So we are looking at the challenge that I'm maybe facing is that the Amazon account that we have is a government account that is done through the town. And so I have to see what the workaround is for us to be able to do it just for these devices. Because we don't want to be a situation where, somehow others can purchase titles on our dime, Yeah, but those are the statistics and.
Thank you. Any questions for Donald? I'm not seeing any of the staff reports went out with the statistics and the director's report. Does anyone have any questions or. We have Nick right here. You can. Okay, not seeing any then. Moving on to the foundation update, which actually Deb Grace sent to me, so I just have to pull it up. She wanted you to know that the sales for the ELF kits were amazing. 87 in total were sold, and that's an increase from last year, and they'll be using the proceeds from the sale to pay for weatherproofing upgrades to the e-sign. It's all come full circle. The Delano Wharf prints are on sale, $150. There are only 8 left. The QR code to buy them is near the circulation desk and on the flyer. So if people are interested, then it's posted up there in the front. And that's like a history relationship that we've had with those Delano Wharf prints that have been floating around for a long time. But they were brought out of storage and the foundation took them over as a fundraiser. And I think it's been fairly successful considering how many we started with. The fall appeal letter went out in October and returns are just a bit lower than last year. And those were the 3 main things. And then they've been doing a lot of work, the subcommittee with pulling together the lobby overhaul, obviously. And I think that was it from Deb. The next item is bills, and as far as I know, we have no bills. Which is a good position to be in. Old business?
The only old business that I would bring up is that the budget has been submitted, and I did create 7 additional budgets as a tiered, to reflect any tiered cuts that could occur.
Just whipped up 7 additional.
I did.
7 different
I just looked it up,
Oh my goodness.
you know, in hopes of none to be used,
Yes.
except for the original ask.
Lock them away in the safe. Any new business? Not seeing any, and we know when the January meeting will occur. We'll do both sets of minutes then, so today's minutes and November's minutes, and then I'm sure an update on the luminaries and whatever else comes up between now and then, but I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn a meeting this evening at 6:59.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, we are adjourned.